at 8:39 p.m. Sorry, 4:39 p.m. It's already been a day. Okay, I'll start off with the territorial acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the SFS is located on the traditional and ceded territories of the Coast Salish peoples, including Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Coquitlam, and Katzie nations. And ceded means that these territories have never been handed over, sold, or given up by these nations, and we are currently situated on occupied territories. We're moving to a roll call of attendance. Start with council composition. The different council composition. Please, when I call on your position, please give your name, pronouns, and access needs. And access needs are anything that that you need to either help you more fully engage with the meeting, or things that would prevent you from fully engaging. That can be external factors like unstable Wi-Fi, noisy background, or if you have to leave early due to another major commitment, or any emergencies. If you need someone to speak more clearly or speak more plainly. And so I will start with archaeology.
Hey everyone, my name is Damon. My pronouns are he and him, and my access needs are met.
Thank you. Bachelor Environment.
Hi everyone, my name is Tiana. My pronouns are she, her, and all my access needs are met.
Okay, thank you. Behavioral neuroscience.
Hi everyone, my name is Arthi. My pronouns are she, her. And as for my access needs, my Wi-Fi is pretty unstable because I'm on campus, so there is a chance I might drop out and join back in. And also, I'll have to leave the meeting at 6 today because something important came up.
Okay, thank you for letting us know. Biology. Okay, biomedical physiology and kinesiology.
Hi everyone, my name is Kashish. I use she, her pronouns. I will be leaving the meeting at some point because I'm fasting and I have to go eat, but I'll just ask someone for a recap of the meeting once I come back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Cognitive science.
Hi, my name is Hillary. My pronouns are she, her. My access needs are all met. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Communications. Oh, it's on leave of absence. Criminology.
Hi, yeah, my name's Charlotte, she, her pronouns. In terms of access needs, I do have another bi-weekly meeting like right now, so I'm going to be in and out I'm not replying. Sorry about that.
Okay. Data Science Student Union. Okay, I'll check on them later. Economics.
Hi everyone, my name is Rahul. My pronouns are he and him, and I'm currently in the library right now, so there might be a lot of background noise, so I'll make sure that
Hi, my name is Sarah. My pronouns are she, her, and all my access needs are met. Thank you.
Thank you. English.
Hi, my name is Liz. My pronouns are she, they, and all of my access needs are met. Thank you.
Thank you. Environmental science.
Hi, everyone. My name is Paige. My pronouns are she, her, and my.
French.
Hi everyone, my name's Kylie, pronoun she, her, and all my access needs are met. However, I will just have to be leaving at 8:30 tonight. So here's the hoping we don't go over. Thank you.
Me too. I think we're all hoping for this. Okay, gender, sexuality, and women's studies. Okay. Okay. Geography. Geography, let me know they have regrets that you weren't feeling well. Global Asia Studies, Student Union. Okay. Health Sciences.
everyone, my name is Giselle, she, her pronouns. My access needs are met, but I will have to step out between 6 to 7. I'll be back after that.
Okay. Thank you. Interactive arts and technology. Okay. International Studies Student Association. Labor Studies. Linguistics.
Hi, everyone. I'm Olive, she, her pronouns. And at 6, I'll just have to leave.
Okay. Mathematics.
Hi, my name is Ben, pronouns he, and his, and all my access needs are met.
Okay. Mechatronic Systems Engineering. MBB. Oh, hi, Riley. Sorry, 1 second. Hello, my name is Riley McWilliams. Pronouns are he and his. I will need to leave exactly at 8:30 p.m. Okay. MBB. Okay. Operations Research.
Hi, my name is Ash. Pronouns are he, him, his. All my access needs have been met.
Thank you. Philosophy.
Hi, my name is Nikki. My pronouns are she, her, hers. In terms of access needs, due to the nature of council meetings, they're long, and I may ask for clarification on things. And yeah, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. Physics counselor has submitted their resignation. Political science.
Hi, everyone. My name is Abby. He, him, his pronouns, and all my access needs are currently met, although my Wi-Fi tends to cut out, so I may need someone to repeat something. Thank you.
Thank you. Psychology.
Hi, everyone. My name is Tiffany. My pronouns are she, they, and my access needs are met. I just need to leave at exactly 8:30 tonight.
Thank you. Science and Society counselor was impeached last meeting, so their seat is vacant. Society of Arts and Social Sciences.
Hi everyone, my name is Judith. I go by she, her pronouns, and I am the SAS alternate until 5:30 when Aiken can join. Lovely to see everyone.
Thank you. Sociology and Anthropology.
Hi, I am Kayla, pronoun she, hers, and all my access needs are met.
Okay. Software systems.
Hello, my name is Shashank Tanalapati. My pronouns are he, him, his. In terms of access needs, I got to step out at around 6 for an hour for an interview, and I'll be back right after that. Thank you.
Thank you. Statistics and actuarial sciences. Okay. Sustainable community development. So sorry, that's not, they're vacant. Sustainable energy engineering student society. Okay. Deanna Skimman from ISSA. When you get a chance, please feel free to give us your rounds. Constituency group representatives. First Nations, Métis, and Inuit Student Association. International Students Advocates.
Hello everyone, my name is Jean, she, her, hers. All of my access needs have been met. Thank you.
Thanks. Students of Caribbean and African ancestry. Women's Center Collective.
Hi everyone, my name's Nim, pronouns she, they. My access needs, my Wi-Fi has been really spotty, so I might drop out. And if I do, and I miss you asking me something, I'm sorry.
Okay, thank you, Nim. Deanna said in chat, hi everyone, sorry for joining late. My name is Deanna and my pronouns are she/her. I'm currently commuting, so I'm unable to join with camera audio at the moment. Okay, thank you. Moving into affiliated student groups, Student Athletic Advisory Committee. Okay, moving into executives. So acting president and chair of the committee, of council. My name is Corbett, pronouns are he, him, his, and access needs are met. Acting VP internal and organizational development.
Hi, my name is Chloe. My pronouns are she, her, and all my access needs are met.
Thank you. VP finance and services. Jack Alessander, she/her, VP finance services, access needs. Wi-Fi is absolutely trash. Using my cellular data, it might drop in and out. Okay, thank you, Almas. VP University and Academic Affairs.
Hey everyone, my name is Serena. Pronouns are they, she, and access needs. For the most part, they're met. I'm just experiencing like a bit of brain fog today. I'm a bit spaced out, so I might ask folks to repeat themselves.
Okay, thank you. VP External Community Affairs, Matt said he had to step out to pick up his brother at 5 and he'll be back. VP Equity and Sustainability. I know she's running a little bit late, but she'll be here. VP Events and Student Affairs.
Hi, my name is Jess. My pronouns are she, her, hers, and all my access needs are met, except I am feeling a little bit low and tired today, so I'll probably just use the chat.
Thank you very much. Society staff, operations organizer. I think she's in today. Board organizer, unless she needed to go home early. Policy research community affairs coordinator, BD. Not in. Administrative assistant.
Hey everyone, I'm Simmer. My pronouns are he and him, and all my access needs are met.
Sorry for yawning on camera.
And on that list, because you were not on the investigative committee. Oh, fuck.
Huh? Okay, Abby. Building manager. He's not here at the moment. Okay, sorry, everyone, I'm a little dazed myself. Consent agenda. We'll move into item 4.1, consent agenda. Be resolved to adopt the consent agenda by unanimous consent. Matters arising from there's two items, 4.1.1 and 4.1.2. One is matters arising from minutes for council for March 2nd and March 30th. As well as an item to be resolved to ratify the minutes from the previous council meeting held on the 30th of March for Nicole Kerrigan, Justin Chen, and Joselle Riffle. I'd forgotten to do that with all the agenda amendment changes that happened last time. Is there any point of interest on Nikki?
Yeah, quick question. I guess does this mean that we're accepting the agenda as it is without any revisions?
No, not yet. We're not there yet.
Okay.
So we have 2 layers.
Okay. Yeah. Sounds good. I actually have some questions about the past meeting minutes that I didn't have answered, so I don't feel comfortable at this point having them be accepted at this point, just because I have some questions and I have some additional things that should be added, I think, but yeah.
Okay. So you would like to strike both of them from, you're objecting for that, so you'd like them to
if that's okay, if I can just talk to the admin coordinators.
Sure. What we'll do is normally how this would work with consent agenda items is there's an objection to an item being unanimously approved. We can pull it out to its own separate section or its own separate motion discussion, and we then can talk about that. And if there's a need to like pause until say the next meeting, we can do a motion then.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Okay. So you're objecting to the approval of the March 2nd and March 30th minutes?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. I will pull that out and put it in as a separate item first, or separate item after this. What about 4.1.2.2? Any objections to these ratifications of regrets? Seeing none, that passes unanimously. We'll move on to 5.1. This is where we will now be potentially changing the agenda, or keep it or accepting it as is. So, adoption of the agenda. Motion reads, be it resolved to adopt the agenda as presented. Do I have a mover?
Math.
Thank you, Matt.
I
Do I have a
listed.
seconder?
Political science.
Political science, okay. Thank you. Now we go to
I listed for that one. Can you hear me?
Yes, Mickey,
Oh, sorry.
Okay. So now we're discussion. Nikki, you've listed, I've listed, and I think Gabe is actually has a request as well. So go ahead, Nikki.
I would like to amend the agenda to include an announcement for the new philosophy counselor starting on May 1st, Ashley Flett.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I would like to make a few small amendments, and I'll take into account Gabe's request one. I'd like to actually postpone 6.1 indoor entertainment and sub to next week's meeting. I chatted with John, and there was some miscommunication on this, and he can get something presented for us next week. I would like to move up Student Senator Gabe Lewis's joint letter to SCAR regarding the university hybrid model learning to be the first presentation. And I believe, I'll double check, but I believe the executive transition plan for Ella might not be presented because I don't think she can attend now. Let me just double check on other items. Discussion item for budget development updates 11.3. Alice is just going to include that in her verbal report and during the executive officer reports. So I will also like to strike that because it's just going to be combined earlier. Oh, sorry, Aaron Fung is sorry, Nikki. Aaron Fung is new CogSci rep. Is that what the announcement you want to make?
Aaron Fung is the new CogSci rep, and Ashley Flett is the new philosophy rep.
Thank you, Ashley. My apologies. Can you type the name out in the chat? Thank you very much, Nikki. Okay, go ahead, Nikki. You have another list?
Just
Or-
a clarification question, just usually for the future, like why was Ashley missed usually? Is it just because like maybe she wasn't inputted in the, let's say, exec list or something?
There's just a lot of new elections and stuff going on, so there's a lot of emails back and forth, and it just got missed.
Okay, thank you so much for clarifying.
Kylie, go ahead.
Hi, yeah, sorry I didn't notice this before the meeting, but Ethan Dungy is listed as the French representative. He's actually starting like with a new fiscal year in May, not right now. I'm still the council rep for this, so I guess I have to amend the agenda to change the French representative to Kylie Popernich.
We will do that. Thank you for catching that. I'll just have that corrected in with staff behind offline. No, my mistake. You were talking about the announcement, not the roll call. Right. Okay. Yeah. Thanks. I'll get that fixed. Okay. Any other items? No? Okay, then I'll request to move these amendments as a batch. Do I have a seconder?
Jess.
Political science.
Jess, BPSA. Second. Just for clarity, there's a new announcement that has been added. I have postponed, postponed two discussion presentations, the indoor entertainment sub and the executive transition plan, and moving the order of the presentations so that Gabe's presentation goes first, and then it's the Women's Center and on-campus furnishing proposal presentation. And that the discussion item for 11.3 is just going to be merged into the Almas's reports during executive officers. So just for clarity. Okay, any discussion on these? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor, seeking unanimous consent. If you'd like to abstain or dissent, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom, and I'll call on you to record your vote. Okay, that carries unanimously. Now we'll move back to the main motion, which has been amended to this new agenda. Be resolved to adopt the agenda as amended. One last chance. Any new amendments? Okay, seeing none, moving to a vote. All in favor, seeking unanimous consent. If you'd like to abstain or dissent, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom, and I'll call on you to record your vote. Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. We'll now move on to the presentations. The new 6.1 is joint letter by SCAR regarding university hybrid learning. There was an item attachment that was sent out to council. And there will be a follow-up motion later in the meeting. And Senator Gabe I'll make you a co-host so you should be able to share your screen for any presentation you'd like to give. And you are welcome to start whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Corbett. And just give me a moment to actually share my screen. So you should be able to see that now. Can I just get confirmation of that?
Yeah, we can see it.
Amazing. Okay, cool. Thanks, Kashish. Hi, everyone. My name is Gabe Leosis. I'm going to be presenting alongside Kashish today on the topic of university hybrid learning, as well as just overall about accessible course practices at SFU. I'll introduce myself. My name is Gabe Leosis. I am a current student senator and the former SFSS president. My pronouns are he, him, his, and just to point out some access needs of mine, as I'm presenting, I actually don't have the chat open. So if you do have any questions, I feel like at the end is probably the best time to go through those if you just want to make note of them, and I'd be happy to answer them afterwards. Kashish, did you want to do an introduction as well?
I already introduced myself, but I'll just mention it again. I'm the BPK counselor, and I'm also currently the chair of the Accessible Course Practices Working Group. And we've been sort of working on this campaign since last summer. And then I can go on more into it when we start presenting.
Cool. So as I mentioned, I wanted to speak with council today just about hybrid learning and some of the advocacy that has been going on in trying to kind of push for this within SFU. So one thing I just wanted to get straight kind of right off the bat is what exactly is hybrid learning? Because when the term hybrid learning is thrown around, there are different definitions that get used, and so there's sometimes confusion as to what folks mean when we talk about hybrid learning. So the definition that I want to use in this presentation is that hybrid learning is live instruction, synchronous instruction of a class that is taught with attendees participating both by virtual means and in person, all happening at the same time. And so I want to make that distinction because there's also another definition of hybrid learning that is sometimes used, although I think the more appropriate term for that other definition would be blended courses, which are courses that have some components that are synchronous, live and in person, and other parts of it that are online, but they don't happen simultaneously. So what that might look like is 1 week you're in person in a classroom, and the other week you're assigned to do work on your own and you don't actually need to be in the classroom in person. That's not the definition that I'm using today. The definition I'm going to be using is simultaneous virtual in-person participation in classrooms, in a class. So I'm actually just going to pass it off to Kashish, who's going to kind of go over
Hope was there at the annual general meeting when we endorsed the Accessible Course Practices campaign and also released the open letter, which was also approved at council at a later meeting. Since summer, I think we had all been thinking about what it would mean to go back in person and how it would affect everybody. And I'm pretty sure that everybody agreed that it was a lot of stress for everybody, all the students, because of all the constraints, just getting back first in person in September when nobody even knew what was going on and how everybody would be affected. Our stance, SFSS stance, has always been that we want to push for what students want, which is they want more accessibility with courses, they want more equity, and they want the choice to either attend in person or be wherever they feel safe while attending their lectures because of whatever constraints they have. After the endorsement at the annual general meeting and after endorsement of the open letter, we've also been in contact with SFUFA and TSSU and released a joint statement to SFSS, TSSU, and SFUFA, and which we sent to SFU admin, and that letter was also endorsed by council and approved by council at a meeting last semester. So far, all the work that the ACP working group has done is, first we formed the working group, and then we did surveys for faculty and students, and I'm sure I've chatted with a bunch of you here about what the responses from students were, that everybody was anxious to be back in person, and that they would like the choice to have hybrid learning, that they would like the choice to just learn how they feel is best for them. And in terms of faculty, even though we had a majority of faculty saying that they will be recording their lectures in the future, there was still a substantial amount that did not want to record because of various reasons such as their academic freedom or intellectual property argument. It's been a lot of back and forth with that. But at the SFSS AGM, we also had unanimous confirmation from our membership that this is something that they would like to pursue, and they would like the university and faculty to accommodate students' needs whenever necessary for hybrid learning going forward. And so far, when the open letter came out, since then, we have about 750 signatories, which were some alumni and mostly current students, which actually helped us collaborate with the SFUFA and the TSSU, because you can't just ignore so many students asking for something. Since then, we've sent the letter to SFU, which I'm sure you've read. If you haven't, you should check it out in one of your attachments. And we've also gotten a response from SFU, which has not been very encouraging. In fact, we're trying to launch a social media campaign. Hopefully tomorrow it will come out, to raise more awareness between students about that this is something that is coming to Senate and that SFSS has already been pursuing. And if they think that, you know, they support university hybrid learning, they should help with the campaign, and they can voice their concerns, and they should ask SFE to respond to our demands. That was all for me.
So there is a couple of things that council can do now that, you know, council has struck the accessible course practices working group, has engaged in this work and continues to engage in this work. And I think the point that I want to emphasize is that hybrid learning continues to be popular amongst students, and not just students, actually, across our community. From various different constituencies within our community, we see support for hybrid learning. There's just still a lot of questions surrounding kind of implementation, how it would impact workload for faculty and sessional instructors and TAs and all of that, which I'm going to get into in a little bit. So I think as Kashish was mentioning, council's already done, as I mentioned as well, council's already been doing the work, whether it be through ACP, signing joint letters, or authoring various other statements calling for hybrid learning. In my capacity as a student senator, I've been trying to push hybrid learning through and at least start getting these discussions rolling, because in our discussions with the administration, there hasn't been a lot of given or buy-in to the idea of hybrid learning. And so really the only avenues that we have at this point as students to push for hybrid learning is through governing bodies like Senate and the Board of Governors, of which we have student representation. And that's really all the entire reason why students are elected to these governing bodies is to push through popular ideas that are coming from the student body. So let me explain a little bit about what's happening at Senate. And it was only just brought to Senate by myself. So without getting too bogged down in the bureaucracy of how the Senate works, I'm going to try and explain this as simply as I can. But essentially, when motions get submitted, it's not like, for example, council, where any councillor can submit a motion and at the next council meeting, bam, it's on the agenda. It's a lot harder for student senators in particular to get things on the Senate agenda, because before it can be brought to the Senate floor, it actually needs to go to a committee called the Senate Committee on Agenda and Rules. And the Senate Committee on Agenda and Rules has sweeping authority to kind of determine whether or not motions get brought to Senate as a whole, or whether they should get deferred to a committee for further discussion. And in practice, that should be a system that works well, but often when things get kind of flicked off to a committee, that essentially means something I like to call death by committee, which means you never see it again after it goes to the committee that it was referred to. So luckily, I'm a member of the Senate Committee on Agenda and Rules, and so is your VP University University and Academic Affairs, as well as Student Senator Serena. We're both on SCAR. I'm going to use that acronym because that's what I'm more used to. And it was brought to the last SCAR meeting, which happened in, what month is it? In March. And there were significant attempts to try and block this from going through. And I think that we had enough good points and I guess a strong voice on that committee to kind of get it to where it is now. So it's not going to Senate for April. The April Senate meeting already happened, but there is possibility for it to end up at Senate in May. And I'm currently in discussions with Elizabeth Ellie, who is the Vice Provost of Teaching and Learning, kind of the person who's in charge of how instruction happens and kind of the format by which instruction happens. And I had a productive meeting with her actually last week, in that we're going to work together to try and put together a document to bring forward to Senate that really goes through the pros and cons of hybrid learning, what is the history of hybrid learning, how has it been used in other post-secondary institutions, if it has at all, in order for Senate to actually make an informed decision and come to their own opinions about whether or not hybrid learning is something, as an institution, SFU wants to move forward with. And so my rough estimate, if all goes well, something could be brought forward to the Senate floor in May or June. Now, the motions that I'm bringing forward to Senate are as follows. And I'll explain why the motions are worded in this way and kind of the purpose for it. So I'm bringing forward two motions. One is that Senate creates an ad hoc committee, ad hoc essentially meaning temporary. It only exists for a short period of time and is usually charged with one very particular project to work on and generate a report back to its governing body. So that Senate creates an ad hoc committee on university hybrid learning for the purpose of developing a report for what steps must be taken to implement robust hybrid learning at SFU. And then that report would be brought to Senate, and then Senate can decide based on those recommendations whether or not hybrid learning is something that should occur at SFU. And then the second one is around directing the Senate Committee on University Priorities to consider the costs, the financial implications on SFU as to what hybrid learning would look like. One thing I want to emphasize, and probably something you've picked up on already, is that these motions are not asking Senate to endorse hybrid learning in principle. It does not say, be it resolved that Senate approve in principle the idea of hybrid learning at SFU. That's very intentional because the intention behind these motions is very exploratory in nature. So in an attempt to at least get the ball rolling and to get SFU to actually engage in these conversations about hybrid learning, which thus far have essentially been blocked and not given much attention, these motions attempt to at least get the ball rolling and get Senate to start researching, at the bare minimum, what hybrid learning could look like at SFU. Now, here is where I get into what I'd like to ask council for at this time. Now I'm going to go back a slide and kind of look at the right side of this presentation, is that I am organizing between key constituencies within our community to write a joint letter to the Senate Committee on Agenda and Rules. Essentially, I'll send a link to this in the chat in a minute because I do recognize that the font is very, very small here. Essentially asking, expressing desire to see these motions go forward. Because at this point in time in the Senate process, there is a very real possibility that the administration and other members of Senate on this committee could block these motions from going forward if they for whatever reason, don't deem it necessary to go to Senate. And so by kind of getting key organizations, and I've listed them here, like the SFSS, constituency groups within the SFSS, the GSS, TSSU, and SFUFA to sign on to this, it really shows the cross-institutional support to at least begin engaging in conversations and doing research on what hybrid learning could look like at SFU. I've already secured an endorsed, or rather a signatory from the Graduate Student Society Executive Committee for this joint letter. Of course, today I am asking Council, the SFSS Council, to sign on to this letter as well. I have discussed this letter with the Executive Director of the Faculty Association. And while that still needs to be brought back to their executive committee, that conversation was promising. And really, the Faculty Association is yet to say they approve of hybrid learning in principle, but they are on board with doing further investigation of what resources and financial support and operational support would be required of SFU to make this happen without burdening faculty workload. And same kind of goes for TSSU, from what I've heard at least, and I'm going to be talking with them as well very, very soon in the next couple of weeks, but they're also of the mind that, you know, the pandemic had a really, really heavy impact on TAs and sessional instructors because they barely got any resources from SFU or any support at all in terms of how to teach online during a pandemic. And so when we throw around terms like hybrid learning, of course, TSSU's membership is going to be worried about what that means for their members' workloads. And so a motion like this, in my opinion, allows us to do research on how to prevent those or how to address those concerns. So that is the end of my presentation. I will, for Council's convenience,
Thank you, Gabe. Abby, you first list.
Hi there, sorry, I apologize, I'm lagging a little bit, but I wanted to say, sorry, give me 1 second, sorry. Sorry, my bandwidth is low, but I wanted to say great job with this, Gabe. I signed off on this as a senator like a month ago. I think it's all good stuff, all beneficial to students. Hybrid learning has a lot of benefits, and it benefits a lot of students either who are neurodiverse or just in general need a different way to learn. And I think it's just the way of the future for universities. So I think this is a smart investment, and I think council should sign off on this. Thank you.
Go ahead, Nikki.
Yeah, I wanted to express my full support for all the work that you've been doing in relation to hybrid learning. This is one of my goals as well. I really want to encourage the university to implement hybrid learning measures and like an actual meaningful hybrid learning. And I significantly support what you have been doing here. And I do highly encourage council, if you feel that this is something that would be in the benefit of students, which it seems to be like students have a consensus that they want hybrid learning. I would very much so encourage us to support it. And also, again, as Abby mentioned, this is also very great for like accessibility because people have like different ways of learning that like works best for them, and honestly like this is just a good way moving forward for everyone to meet everyone's needs as much as possible. So thank you so much for all your work.
Thank you, Nikki. I would also like to comment, and yeah, thank you, Gabe, and thank you, Kashish, especially for you've been part of this much longer, pushing for this quite from the start. I'm also very much in support of this. And because, yeah, I think it's incredibly important for students to have a say in how their education is delivered. Not all pedagogy is the same or equal or of equal value, and some are probably inaccessible, ableists, and others, and that just pedagogy itself is not sacred, like the idea like they need to be improved, they need to be reviewed, and students is a big voice to support themselves and everyone else who needs more options. That should be built in. We wouldn't accept, physically, classrooms not being physically accessible, or we shouldn't in many ways. And we shouldn't just do the same thing in the sense of, course delivery. So yeah, if there's any additional questions, because it's best time, because I don't think Gabe will be here when we do the motion. So if you have any questions for Gabe and Kashish about this, good time to do it now. And we can move on to the next presentation. Again, reminder, we will have a motion on this later in the meeting.
Thanks for having me present, guys. I'll see you later.
Okay, thank you. We are on item 6.2, Women's Center and Out on Campus Furnishings Proposal Presentation. Just give me a minute to give the appropriate people co-hosts so they can share the screen if they need to. 1 second. Okay, please welcome Jude from the Out on Campus Coordinator and Simi, the Women's Center Coordinator. They've both been working on a proposal for furnishings for updated furnishings for the Women's Center and Out on Campus spaces in the Student Union Building. And I've been giving stuff back and forth as acting president, and we took this to Space Oversight Committee, and they went and recommended onto this to go to council. So both Jude and Simi, you've been added as co-hosts. So if you need to share your screen to display it, if you don't, if you need my help to just display, say, the proposal that was sent out to staff, to council earlier, please let me know.
I'm just going to try sharing now. I'm just gonna see here. Can everyone see my screen? And I can't see all of you, so just throw an emoji or let me know. Jude, can you see it? Okay. So yeah. Hello, everyone. Nice to virtually meet all of you. So I'm Simi, and I am the new Women's Center Coordinator, and Jude is from Out on Campus. And essentially, we're presenting today in regards to furnishing our spaces. So the current issue, or I guess like kind of an overall synopsis of what's going on. So SFSS has agreed to cover the operating costs for our groups. So currently, as it stands, Women's Center and Out of Campus Collective, we're relatively really new. So we're still working on our constitution and working towards an LOA. Prehistorically, we haven't really had like a strong presence within all the constituent membership groups, but we're definitely getting up there. So in the process of kind of bringing in our house and nesting in our new space, it's been presented as needs from our students, so specifically our memberships from the Women's Center as well as Out on Campus. In regards to some of the furnitures that we currently have in our space that were given to us by the building coordinator team, as well as SFU. So they're kind of just like leftover furnitures that people didn't have spaces for. And then we kind of took into our spaces as an ad hoc temporary solution. but we're asking the council in support of helping us get more proper furnishing to service our membership as it continues to grow. And with COVID now kind of still in the background, but we're moving to more of a physical presence on campus, it's become quite apparent that our current furniture and our space layout isn't meeting student needs. So we're asking to use the Space Expansion Fund. So I'm sure in a council meeting previous to, there was a conversation, a discussion, and eventually a motion in regards to SOCA, FMNISA, and as well as DNA. And the Women's Center and Out of Campus would also like to use that resource so we're able to service the needs of our memberships without dipping into our own funds, which are specifically meant to service in programming and offering support to distressed students in other regards. So I'm just gonna go over where it started from. So as Corbett mentioned, early March was when I kind of came in and we started conversation and discussions around what were needed, items and pricing. I made sure to include a 15% contingency fee, as well as including tax information as well. So as we move forward, this is currently what the Women's Center breakdown looks like. I'll make sure that the council members are given access to the presentation so you can go in and look for yourselves. But essentially, what you're seeing are large pieces of furniture, so more commercial, large couches, armchairs, coffee tables, side tables, and a lot of room and space used for students to use to study, to network, to support one another essentially. And I'm looking for long-term bigger pieces that service not just one type of student, but the Women's Center is open to all genders and our lounge is specific to anyone that identifies as female. So we're wanting to make sure our area is comfortable and approachable and anyone is welcome to come in and use our spaces for whatever needs that are presented. Some critical pieces would be the PIN code lock that we're specifically asking for our lounge. That way collective members are able to access and there's a bit more security in the women's specific area in the Women's Center, as well as work laptops. We are wanting students to use our services as well as our collective members when it comes to programming, social media, being able to do their own work to make sure the Women's Center is up and running, but as well as students that may need it for homework, for additional support in whatever capacity. All of these are for the students and were drafted up with the intention of making sure that they feel very comfortable about it. So I want a lot of membership people to go over my links. I've gotten a lot of discussions with my collective members. Nim, the counselor, has actively engaged in helping me kind of pick and choose the right materials for our space. One specific thing I wanted to focus on was the culture expression items. So we're thinking of creating a mural piece within the Women's Center, and we're looking to recruit SFU students for their work and time. This would be a specific section within the Women's Center, and we're hoping to be able to pay for their work and labor, as well as host the art that SFU students have created, hoping to create an artistic, happy community. And as we kind of go through the overall total, the Women's Center specifically, as a grand total would be asking for $30,000 or $30,557 to be specific. That would be the grand total of all the other commercial items, as well as including the PIN code lock pad, as well as the laptops, and then the mural painting for the Women's Center as well. I'm gonna pass it off to Jude so they can go over Out on Campus.
Cool. Yeah, I can go over everything for all of you. I did have to go to a dentist today, and so part of my mouth is still a little bit frozen, so I apologize if I kind of talk weird or have to take breaks. But the cost breakdown for Out on Campus is kind of the same reasoning. Like a lot of the furniture that's currently in the space is quite uncomfortable for students, and majority of the students who occupy the space regularly have complained just for comfort level. The couches, the tables are quite low, so there's just a lot of accessibility stuff. The current desk chairs that we have, I think are just like the basic ones, so they're also quite uncomfortable, and students have asked for armless chairs, chairs that allow for like bigger weight, just to make it as accessible as possible. We're hoping one of the rooms to be a quiet room, and so to have like a pull-out sofa bed so that folks can take naps if they need to, or just like be in a quiet, chill space. For us, like it looks a little bit different than what the Women's Center, just because we don't have a separate lounge like the Women's Center does have, which is why like the projector and the projector screen is also on there, because we don't have a TV screen in our space. And figuring out bookings for things can get really tricky and also kind of inaccessible, especially when it's the collective that's figuring things out. And also part of this is to, we previously had items from the Rotunda space stolen, which was before my time. So part of these items are also as a way to kind of replace what was stolen in the old space. And then there's also things like the PIN code for our room, so that collective members are able to access the space when myself and Constantine, the assistant, aren't able to be, or we're done our workday. The workspace laptops, which also allow for more accessibility so that people don't have to stay at the one working desk with a big computer. And so with, and I talked with students about a cultural, some type of mural or something else, but because out on campus doesn't currently have a collective in place, it's, we just finished our call out for collective members. None of the students had expressed interest doing that right now, just because they wanted to think about it more and have more control over that. And so all of the items that are on here are all part of student input, just because it's myself and just the program assistant. So because we don't have a council rep and we don't have a collective, this is completely with input from the students who use the space. And so with the taxes and the contingency fee, the total for us, I think, was 25,000 something. Sorry, the presentation left. It was under 26,000 though.
My bad on that, it booted me out. But essentially, all of our research encompasses the needs of the students and as well as our membership. Ultimately, because this is a new space coming in and everyone's adjusting from to the new location, we took all of the feedback and we're trying to service the students. So the transition from online to on campus is a more seamless process. And again, historically, the Women's Center also had a 24/7 space. So given that and the new adjustments with the sub and like the new layout and the new hours, we're taking extra attention to just the overall items that take up the space and how students overall feel about it. We're trying to encompass not only just able-bodied, but disabled bodies as well. And a lot of furniture pieces come, so when all those items are selected and presented to you, it came with a lot of conversations with coordinators and other constituent memberships as well, to make sure that it's accessible to all students, anyone that would be welcome and would feel comfortable in each item that we have in our space, as well as creating a holistic community. At the end of the day, we're servicing the students and we want students to feel like this is their space and it's the reflection of them. And all of these items were asked and discussed in great detail amongst them while we're getting settled. So Jude and I and Corbett and a few others worked really intensely to make sure that it reflected the needs and wants of each space, so our personalities and our individual membership needs are met appropriately. And I think I'm going to open it up to the council, so if there's any questions or concerns or things that need to be discussed, Jude and I are definitely here so we can hash it out together.
Thank you very much, Jude and Simi. So we have two people on the list, Nim and Jess. So Nim, go ahead.
Thank you for the presentation. I just wanted to voice my support for and urge everyone to vote in favor of this motion. A lot of work and time and thought did go into putting together the pieces about what our spaces are missing and how we can better service our students. And to make sure that our spaces are accessible, which is a really big thing. So yeah, just urging everyone to vote in favor. and think about how all these things will go towards making SFU students and SFSS students and making their lives a little bit easier at the university too.
Thank you. Jess, go ahead.
Thank you, Jude and Simi, for working on this, and Corbett and anyone else who was doing the research in the back end work for this. The Women's Center and the add-on campus spaces are new. It will exist past our time, past when we graduate, and so we have the ability now to make that choice to support students now and in the future who come after us. Because the spaces in the rotunda, while they were servicing, it wasn't able to bring and be its full capacity because it didn't have the stuff it needed. COVID was extremely difficult and continues to be difficult for women, for non-binary folks, for gender non-conforming people, for two-spirit folks, and for people who identify as LGBTQ+. Jude and Simi, even though they've been here such a short time, they have already been able to see, and their collectives, they've been able to see the disparities in the services, and now they are bringing to you folks what they need. We have the ability to provide that service for the centers and for the people who use it. And so I strongly encourage, when we do get to the motion, that we vote in favor for this, because I'm so excited for the space to finally grow and to see its potential. So thank you, Jude and Simi.
Thank you. Go ahead, Serena.
Thank you. A lot of what I've wanted to say has already been said, but I'll thank Jude, Simi, for their presentation and for all the work that you folks have put into this. And I would just have folks think back to the rotunda and how many years ago that was, and then think even further back about how long that furniture has been in those spaces. This has been like years in the making of making improvements for students within these constituency groups, and I think it's long overdue. So I'll definitely be voting in favor of it.
Okay, thank you. Is there any questions from council about the proposal? That Jude and Simi can answer. Okay. I'd just also like to put in, as someone who's helped give advice on this proposal and given advice on like funding and how it works, I'm also very much in favor of this. We have more than enough funds in Space Expansion Fund. We can, now that we've gotten feedback from students on ways to improve the space, it's something we can easily do. Any of the furniture that would be replaced still can be reused in some other areas of the sub, so it's not, it's not going to waste. And so, yeah, I think further improvements to be more community focused, to be able to provide more supports and activities is an easy thing for us to do, and it's a really good thing for us to do. So, thank you. And yeah, if there's no more, we will end this presentation, and we'll let Simi and Jude finish for the rest of the day, because they're still working today. And you don't have to stay for the whole meeting to do the presentation, sorry, for the motion, but if you're available, it's totally up to you, Jude and Simi.
Okay, thank you everyone for listening to my presentation.
Thank you.
Okay. Items 6.1 and 6.4 were the original ones were postponed to the next meeting. So we'll now move into reports from committees. So 7.1 is executive committee, 7.2 is executive officers, and 7.3 is committee on counselors breaching confidentiality. Number 7.1, I can give a quick update. We met normally, because this is a special meeting, we exec met yesterday, and we went through a number of in-camera items and a number of discussion items. Discussion items that I can talk about in the public meeting were related to some updates on some ongoing projects. One was related to the activism history project that was actually approved in, for spending and stuff back in near the end, like almost this time last year. And we ended up, there's been some changes since then about location and photos. What the goal of this project is to have there's a lot of history in the SFSS of activism, of, for tuition freeze, there's a period of time where they built a wall out of bricks and people wrote on their tuition on those bricks. There was involvement with, TAs and staff being fired in the 70s, 60s, 70s. That led to the Freedom Square plaque, and then the whole point of that space being called Freedom Square. And the SFS has been involved, almost every decade there's something that they've been involved in that we have pictures of, and we thought it makes sense to have those pictures spread out or put out throughout the sub. And so we were just getting some updates on that and making some small decisions. Other items were something to a notice of motion as we come out with a new policy to have our constituent groups policies fleshed out and improved the base to be in line with a lot of our letters of agreements with SOCA, FS CURG, DNA, and FMISA, and future constituency groups, just to make sure the policies were all in line with the bylaws and everything else. And then Marie will be actually amending the agenda a little bit later to add that notice of motion, because I forgot to do that earlier today. We had a few other smaller discussions. Again, there was nothing really major that we gone to council yet, or maybe not at all. I think it was just, again, things that have already been approved and were just being updated on. Yeah, so after that, we can go now into 7.2, executive officers. And I'm happy to share I'll share my screen on that. Give me 1 minute. Okay. So this is our report for, this report I think should be around 3 weeks in length since the last council meeting, because this got pushed from last meeting to this one. And I'll start with myself. A lot of my time has been a mixture of administrative work, trying to catch up on a bunch of, sorry, 1 second, just need to, forgot to, change coast. Yeah, okay. A lot of administrative work, catching up on a number of things also. But so I went to a few some regular meetings. So a joint operations group, that's with SFU. It's a monthly group where we meet with various service and like student services and administrators. And we use that as a way to advocate directly to SFU on different issues. We also get updates on like enrollment numbers, budgets, things like that. In this particular one, though, there's been a number of years. Over the last year or more, there's been like a growing. The groups, these joint groups of SFU have become less and less viable, and there's justice with us, with GSS as well, the Graduate Student Society, and they actually pulled out at a protest. And then we are in solidarity with them, and we gave our reasons, and we also left from the last meeting. So it was shorter. We hope that the SFU will take this into account and make improvements, because from our perspective, it's been SFU that's been withdrawing and becoming less effective. And I can go into more detail that and offline. I also have like bi-week check-ins with our administrative team and weekly checkouts. These are like basically the start of the week I'll learn what projects we're working on, and then at the end of the week I have a a lot of one-on-ones for about half an hour or so, and we just go over what projects were finished and what's going to be worked on for next week. And I also tend to, when I'm in the sub, I like to go around and check in with different staff from time to time to see how they're doing and the issues they're having in the sub or with work, or catching up on, they need to they need me to sign a check rec or something like that. Of course, we had a council meeting on the 30th where we censured, impeached, and recommended impeachment for 3 councillors. I also recommended resignation of 1 of the councillors. And also we had hiring of our admin assistant, women's center coordinator, and accessibility assistants over the last couple weeks, and we've had I've been a part of some of the onboarding sessions for them. Major committees were SPOC, Space Oversight Committee, where we reviewed the women's center and out-on-campus furnishing proposals and recommended them to council. But the biggest one was the council in-camera breach investigation. And for me personally, it's been at least 25 hours of work over the last 3 weeks. I think, been more than that now. Currently working on the public reports, but a lot of the work was working with the committee on sending out notices, compelling and requesting testimony, notices of impeachment and censure, compiled testimony, submissions, and deliberations from members, and worked on the report submitted, the confidential report submitted to council with the recommendations. Other than that, admin work, lots of emails. Took me about a month to catch up fully. And I also, for last week, I filled in for Aisha for about a week, and did a lot of smaller AHR tasks that she normally handles and does a great job at. What this kind of worked out, it was basically last week, every single day was 12 hours at least for me. But it should go back down to a little bit more normal now. So yeah, it was a little bit, it was interesting. Anyways, so that's my report. I'll do the slideshow. Oops. Chloe, you're next.
Okay, so I don't have too much to report on. I was on LOA from the 18th to the 29th. It was supposed to be to the 25th, but I got sick. So, oh, you can't hear me? Okay. So then coming back from LOA, a lot of time has been going over unread emails, catching up on stuff that happened the week I was gone. Next, Corbett kind of went into this, but as soon as I came back, lots of CCPC meetings, which most of you saw the outcome of all the work that was done from that committee during our last council meeting. And then following that has been finishing things up to do with the outcomes of that committee meeting. The next thing I've been working on is reaching out to DSUs and counselors about their council elections. So please make sure if your DSU has not elected your counselor for next term to do that, and also to send the minutes with the election results to Anna and Sam. And yeah, please reach out to me if council elections is still something that needs to be done, because we want to minimize the number of vacancies for the next council term, and then just an exec meeting yesterday. And Corbett removed my original meme, so he made this one instead, which was yeah, catch up after my LOA or get COVID. And yeah, unfortunately I caught COVID, but that's all from me.
This is next. I know she was having connection issues, so I can always kind of lead off her slide. Okay, so Almas was, she attended the executive committee meetings and council meeting. She's been part of the Faculty of Science Dean Hiring Committee. Final interviews are done, references checked, and tentative dean candidate selected, waiting for the faculty ratification votes. She's also on Associate Vice President Academic Hiring Committee, candidate reports discussed among the members of the committee, and questions for the interviews set out to committee members for suggestions for any adoptions and additional feedback. Research Administrative Assistant Hiring Committee, that's part of the SFS, received 52 applications for the role, and which 7 were shortlisted, and the top 5 applicants have been invited for interviews next week. A budget draft discussion meeting, I apologize. Both me, like Kurtz and I, and Almas, we got together and Kurt discussed issues and suggestions that he received from the staff on the first draft and presented a second draft based on them, which both me and Almas have seen, and now we're working together on a third draft. Incoming and outgoing exec meetings, there's informal chats about carryover projects, updates on the transition process by Ella, and a QA period. This was like a coffee chat we had. We had a staff meeting roundtable updates, and there was, talked about the furnishings proposal that we all just saw, and Trish, our student advocacy coordinator, our student advocate, is working on a project around the shuttle, improving the shuttle service for more accessibility. I believe this will come to council in the next term. And the joint operations group, as I mentioned earlier, Alma Suzette. And then the standard administrative tasks, work on the budgets, emails, payrolls, etc. And for the updates on the budget process, so the first draft was made and presented to our staff members for their feedback and suggestions on department related to the portfolios, like asking if they wanted more staff or funding, or if there was changes to the budget itself. Fee increases, because we've had a number of fee increases through the referendums, the dedicated levy, like dedicated equity funds for SOCA and DNA, and then also an increase to FNMISA's fund. This will allow them to spend more, significantly more on programming and to benefit their members. And they're then being directed by their members on what they get spent. So that has all been put into the second draft, and we were just discussing things like council department line items, administrative line items, and a few other areas. So we're looking to have the third draft done by later this week, that we can start submit it to council for our next meeting for review. Okay, Serena.
Thanks, Corbett. Today's my first day back from my LOA, so I don't have a lot to report on. But here's what I have been working on. I worked on completing the Issues Policy 11, Accessible and Equitable Events, last night or early this morning. I don't remember which side of midnight I submitted it, but I submitted the notion of the notice of motion for the next council meeting, so next week. So hopefully we can vote on that issues policy at the last council meeting for this term, which I think is the 27th. Otherwise, I've been, just like pulling out different documents and trying to help with training for my successor, Nikki. And I've been working on organizing my emails and my Google Drive, so hopefully it doesn't look as much of a mess when she compared to how I have it now. And I'm also working on some admin tasks as usual, starting to plan out like when I'm gonna get like all the exit reports and stuff like that done. But otherwise, that's been my short time back so far. As always, you can always contact me through email, Discord, Facebook, whatever works for you. And that's all.
Thank you, Serena. Matt, he's just gonna come back from my LOA. I don't think. Still gone. Thank you, Jess. Marie.
Hey everyone. I also didn't do my introductions, but just if there's guests here, yeah, my name's Marie, pronouns are she, her, hers, and my access needs are met. But yeah, let's get into this. Also, my computer decided to freeze at a horrible time. yeah, so what Corbett was saying, we went to the Joint Operations Group meeting. To add a little bit more detail to what he was saying, is that ultimately the GSS has been protesting the Joint Operations Group, ultimately for reasons that the group has not been as responsive and has been almost ignoring many of the union's part of the Joint Operations Group. I know many times, at least on our ends, we've really just taken it, like, and still have attended and been present as much as we could be, and asked all of the questions that we've had. Many issues, like, for instance, like an example of when earlier on in the pandemic, when a professor was basically encouraging students to take their masks off, we did bring that to the JOG group, and we found out later that no movement was made. So it was a very valid concern. So we did go to the Joint Operations Group. We did mention our solidarity with the GSS, as their opposition to the group is very valid. Like, they have not received much progress with working with JOG or the university on a lot of their projects. So we thought it was valid enough to go and speak in support. During that meeting, we also called on JOG, like a lot of the admin members, to commit to making amends with these groups, as we've worked tremendously hard to work with the university, and they did commit to that. So I'll update you folks next council if there's any movement on that. I was looking into sending an email to just receive an update, but that's a big thing. I also put execs meeting, as you know, like we have regularly scheduled exec meetings. Next Wednesday, we have a meeting with the university, hopefully to fully encompass now the WUSC and SFSS awards. Originally was supposed to be a scholarship. However, an award is okay if it means that it could be encompassed under the SFU list of awards. So it could be more accessible and folks can have access to it. But basically, we've just been preparing questions that we might ask. Originally, the university wasn't up for actually encompassing the award under their website, for reasons that they didn't have necessary identification for certain groups of students. But recently we called on them to work on it, and they have been, and they have updates for us in relation to that. Furthermore, I've been working really hard to finally receive back the Freedom Square plaque. For years, it actually was disappearing, like no one knew where it was, and I believe Gabe Leosis, at the time when he was university relations, worked really hard to actually find the Freedom Square plaque, and apparently it was in a random SFU storage, but they happily found it. And we've been in communication previously, and they've recommended that we could put the Freedom Square plaque in front of the Student Union building. So just been talking about placement and retrieval in general, and onboarding John, our building manager, to find ways in which where we can basically receive it. I've been working hard to finalize the Palestinian liberation issues policy draft. As you know, it took quite some time, and some amazing members of the Free Palestine Working Group have worked really tirelessly to finally finalize this. With the help of many of those members, we were able to receive, I think, about like 17 endorsements from a bunch of like student-led or humanitarian-led organizations, which was really huge. As you know, I also put a notice of motion up last week, so I had to prepare that. And then we also were preparing previously a discussion panel, which happened this Monday. It was really amazing and super, super successful, with many students, even from the Free Palestine Working Group, being able to be involved in the discussion, which was awesome. Furthermore, I've been part of the Women's Center hiring committee for the coordinator. We finally onboarded Simi, which is so amazing. In the process, I have been updating the Women's Center job description to align with the collective. Furthermore, I have been, we've adjusted questions in the process, onboarded the hiring committee just to let them know what the process looks like, how we did interviews, and we made a decision collectively. Furthermore, I've been working on making a draft for the Women's Center and separately the Out on Campus Constitution and Governance Building. If you know, you already know for sure that this has been a huge gap in our policies and a huge gap in our ability to basically retain the collectives, because a lot of times when there's gaps in the coordinators, they're actually obligated to continuously have the collectives come together. However, since there's been many switches with the coordinators with Women's Center and Out on Campus, we've actually had a huge gap in being able to continue the longevity of the collective. So reformatting the Constitution in order to encompass this. It also took me forever to do research on this. I had to do so much digging through archived websites and found a bunch of lost documents, which was really wild, like probably dating back to like 20 years ago. It was wild. But after that, I was able to check in with both the Women's Center Council representative and the now Women's Center coordinator just to talk about this and check in and talk about the Constitution, the reason why it's important, how we could get consultation, which we did. We got consultation from the Women's Center Collective on it and are nearly finalized, which is really awesome. Furthermore, I've also been, these two are really related as well, the member service group policy stuff with the Constitution stuff. So ultimately, our member service and group policy update, if you look at the policy right now, you'll notice that it's very blank and it's in review. So I've been working very hard to, and Corbett's been really helpful and helped me through this as well, but to finally get this member service and group policy update together, which really gives a lot of the, a lot of times like constituency groups don't have the ability to actually lead operations because of gap in policy. So we're ensuring that it's encompassed over here, that staff support is for supporting these groups, and that there is a different set of student governance for these spaces and that those initiatives are basically taken up. That's not properly encompassed. So we want to make sure that it is encompassed in this policy, because it's been, again, like a huge gap for Women's Center and Out on Campus because they haven't been able to continue their operations with the lack of coordinator in place. And in order to ensure that that doesn't happen, we have to update the member service and group policy update, which I will be amending the agenda later today to add onto the agenda. But this is super important just because, yeah, like we just need to fill in this gap and ensure that the Women's Center and Out on Campus doesn't have to continuously like fall apart, and that students are involved and related, because that's important, especially under the student union framework. Furthermore, I've been working with the BIPOC committee. We're planning a painting event on the 27th. It's going to be really fun. Of course, it's going to be for Black, Indigenous, people of color, and other allies as well. So folks are all welcome to come. It's going to be super fun. It's going to be led by an amazing local artist. And we've also had further conversations about budgeting and possibly providing a budget line item for the BIPOC committee. I think we were discussing like 3 to 5K. Most groups have like 10K, but something small to start would be fine. Lastly, I've been planning with them the first floor naming preparation and plan in order to have it execute like seamlessly. And then I was also invited to be part of an event. I was speaking in collaboration, but just talking about working with student unions and really just centering about how we can encourage institutions to divest from fossil fuels. We talked about the 8-year SFU 350 campaign and how the student union was so vital in those moments of really pushing back on the university and ensuring that folks doing really good work and dropping a 400 million divestment weren't getting the brunt end of it, especially since it was really a community initiative too. But yeah, just talking about that and how essential it is. This is really cut off on the bottom, but I've been working with Kashish to provide a survey on council retention. So we came up with questions, we created a survey, and we'll be sending it to you folks today. And we'll talk about it today since we have a discussion on it. This is a link to a previous discussion we had on council retention and how we can ensure that counselors stay for a whole year. We can support them through that. So hopefully this will be good and we can ensure that those things are implemented for the rest of this year and hopefully for next year too. Just because this is the first year that council is running, I'm sure there is going to be trial and error. And we just want to make sure that we are hearing what you folks need to recommend and implementing it. But yeah, that is a lot. I'm sure I missed like a lot more, but it is what it is. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Marie. Jeff?
I went on a 2-week LOA and then I got sick during it, so that was fun. I'm planning an end of year staff party for all of our SFSS staff in the ballroom for all the work that they've done over the past few years, especially during COVID. Met with Dipti and Aisha today to do our wrap up for the logistics when we hosted the BIPOC career workshops and onboarded Simi today in her new role. Over the past few weeks, we've been supporting management in preparation for the new board year, and then I went to an exec meeting, I think, yesterday, and then that's all. Just playing catch up. It's really hard to play catch up after LOA. We have 4 more weeks left, so it's a final push. That's all.
Thanks, Jess. That's it for council report. Oh, sorry, executive officer reports. And then the next item, 7.3, is Committee on Counselors Breaching Confidentiality report as required. While the committee is active, it needs to report to council. I'll just give a big summary because for the public aspect, there's nothing really new that needs to go into camera at the moment. But I have, as the chair, I have some, and as president, I sent out the notices of the impeachment recommendation for all the censure and the impeachment and request for a resignation. I have, done the actions that council approves on March 30th. So removing people access to the Discord, access to the physician email, things like that. And we have met earlier this week to go over some additional, wanted to sort out the public report, which we are working on. We realized we had to put a lot more into it than in the sense of all the extra like governance 101 items, like what is a policy, what is bylaws, what is fiduciary duties, things that you as counselors all get training on ahead of time, that the average student would not get. And so we'll have to put an additional educational language into this report rather, before releasing it. And we were reviewing additional, like some submission stuff in the floor if we needed to do any additional investigations, and we will update council and if that occurs. That's really it for reports from committees. We can move into item 10, new business, but 1 second before I go that, Marie, do you want to just amend the agenda to add the notice of motion? So that I didn't get it done in the first part of the meeting.
Marie just went to the washroom.
Oh. Okay, I'll wait for her to come back then. It's all right, it can be done anytime between any motions. It's just, there's no motion to approved, so it's just adding it to the agenda. Okay, so we'll now move on to item 10.1. Council sign on to the joint letter to SCAR regarding university hybrid learning. This, I'll read out the motion. Be resolved that council sign on to the joint letter titled Support for Ad Hoc Senate Committee on University Hybrid Learning. Submitted by myself. So I'll move it. Is there a seconder?
Political science.
Math is a seconder. Discussion. I'll just do a quick introduction. This motion is related to the presentation we received earlier from Student Senator Gabe Leosis and from B2K Councillor Kashish. So now we can go into any discussion people might have with this particular motion on signing on to it. So please list yourself. Is there no one wanting to add or talk about this particular motion? I'm happy to list myself. This is a hybrid learning one, yes, Rasco. So just to go over what was requested, it was requesting Senate to basically look into the costs and what would be involved in implementing this particular definition of hybrid learning. So Abby, go ahead, and then Rasco.
Thank you. Everyone can hear me, yeah? Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm going to speak in favor of this motion. I think this party doesn't even actually demanding anything. It's just asking them to do some research. And I think it's in Senate's due diligence to do this research and find the costs. And yeah, we're just asking them to commit research, and we're a university. We're supposed to research this type of stuff. So I think this is a fairly simple ask, and I'm in favor of this.
Okay, thank you. Technically, Rasco, with the current rules, I have to let Nikki go first as she's a sitting councillor. And then, because Rasco, you're still just as a regular member, correct? Okay, so yeah, Nikki will go first, and then Rasco will let you go next.
Okay, yeah, thanks for the primer on Robert's rules. So I want to encourage everyone to, of course, think about this for yourself and vote based on what you feel. But I do think that a lot of students really want hybrid learning, and I've listened to a lot of conversations and anecdotes, and I've talked to students who, as the president of the SFU ADHD Association, I've worked with students who have ADHD, and this is something that they want as well, as what I've heard, and I really would like, and this doesn't mean that Senate will, or the university will, in fact, have hybrid learning, but hopefully they can research and find a way to make it feasible. So I really do think that this is something that we should support. So thank you.
Okay, Marie, do you mind if I let Rasco go next? Okay, Rasco, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me properly? Is
Yes,
it
I can.
okay? Is it okay? Beside reading my statement out loud, I also read Vivian's statement out loud. Wait, sorry, the audio cut out.
You can do that.
Okay, so I'm first gonna read my statement out loud. Hello, Council. My name is Rasco, and I'm one of the acting executives of the SFU Disability and Neurodiversity Alliance. I would like to speak in favor of Council signing on to the hybrid learning model recommendation joint letter. The pandemic has accelerated the digitalization of higher education, health measures related closures of in-person post-secondary classes forced universities to come up with an alternative to in-person attendance of classes. Online lectures that can be attended from anywhere have had a positive impact on those with access needs, which shut them out of in-person participation. This wasn't the first time university classes were streamed online, but it was the first time for many students, especially here at SFU. For example, Ontario universities have been doing it for years before the pandemic, albeit with simultaneous in-person and online attendance, giving a choice to everyone if they want to be in-person or online. Now that universities have returned to in-person teaching, at SFU, we have once again returned to an in-person only way of teaching and attending class for the most part, and options for online courses are extremely limited. It's not possible to finish some degrees at SFU with only online classes, creating inequitable opportunities for students to obtain the degrees they need for their future. Those who have a need or preference for online attendance of classes do not have the ability to do so in most cases anymore. But it doesn't have to be this way. What if we could allow the individual students to choose for themselves in what way they shall receive their education? We students all benefit from diverse options, and it is something worthwhile for the tuition we all pay to go towards. So that is my statement. I'm also going to read my colleague's, Vivian Lai's statement on this motion. So reading Vivian's statement now. Hello, SFSS counselors and fellow students. My name is Vivian, and I'm one of the acting executives of the Disability and Neurodiversity Alliance. I would like to speak in support of council signing on to the joint letter. The lack of accessible options for hybrid learning has a disproportionate impact on disabled and neurodivergent students, many of whom face historic and ongoing barriers to traditional classroom environments that continue to be exacerbated by the pandemic. What we appreciate about the joint letter is that it specifically puts the onus on the university for providing professors and TAs technical and financial resources and staff support to implement hybrid learning, including expanded IT support to ensure that professors don't have to run online options all on their own. The lectures can be recorded safely in confidentiality, as is already the case for Center for Accessible Learning registrants that have the lecture recording accommodations, and that intellectual copyright is protected. We have heard from instructors that so far SFU has put the bulk of the work on them for creating accessibility, but this does not have to be the case. SFU can and should invest in resources to support instructors. DNA strongly advocates for re-envisioning what university accessible higher education can look like for all of us, and students and instructors alike. Top universities around the world, such as Harvard, have already struck task forces to explore the innovations and lessons that emerged from the pandemic era of teaching for more accessible and equitable instruction, such as hybrid learning. With BC soon to implement its own accessibility legislation, SFU will have to reassess the accessibility of its instructional practices. We support pushing SFU to do what other universities have already done to explore and implement accessible teaching and learning practices. So that is Vivian's statement. I'm also going to put a link that Vivian would like everyone to see in the chat. There is the link. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rasko. And thank you for the link. Marie, you're next, and then Kashish.
Yeah. Thanks for your sentiments, Rasko. Those were really relevant and needed. To preface also, like, DNA is specifically like a group appointed for like marginalized students, specifically disabled and neurodiverse students. But they've been doing a lot of like really great advocacy work to just talk about like what
You cut out
disabled
Maria, for me at least. Did
Sorry?
it cut out anyone else?
Huh?
I can hear
You
fine.
cut out, just stop. You can hear fine? Sorry, maybe that was not on my end. My apologies.
Oh, sorry. Am I good now? Am I good now? Hello? Okay, cool. Yeah, so DNA specifically is a marginalized group. These kinds of groups, constituency groups specifically, are appointed to advocate for marginalized groups on campus. So I know DNA has been doing a lot of like tireless and really amazing work to just bring folks to the awareness of what disabled, neurodiverse, and immunocompromised students are experiencing. And it's really unfortunate that a lot of times the voices have been shunned down and not centered. So yeah, thanks for saying those statements, Ratsko. And if you'd like us to like have a copy and encompass it in our minutes, feel free to send it in this chat or email us and we could do that. For this specific motion, I'm also going to be voting in favor. I want to give like the biggest like credit to Kashish, who's been also working really hard on council this whole year to really talk about these accessible ways of learning. You deserve a lot of credit, so I want to say it. Furthermore, like these have been things that we've been calling on since like the first month of our term. Like it's really not new. So to see that this is going forward and calling on the university to at least do their due diligence to do the research, and to really consider these surveys that have come out, to really consider the campaigns that not only students have pushed forward, but that staff have also pushed forward, to consider our joint open letter with TSSU, GSS, SFSS, and SFU DNA, and understanding that, yeah, there's a lot of work that the university has to do as well, that we come to the plate and try to work with these folks, and that there needs to be a response back. And this is like simple due diligence. So yeah, those are my thoughts, but just thanks for bringing this forward.
Thank you. Next is Kashish.
I just want to say most of the things have already been said before, but I just want to say that students have worked really hard on pursuing this advocacy, hybrid learning, and TSSU and SFU-FA have also been working towards this. They totally agree that hybrid learning is something that we should have. It's about time that the university also put in some work, especially after the very non-elegant response that they gave to the this, and also vote in favor of this motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Kashish. She did for me too, but is there any other, anyone else want to add themselves to speaking list? Now we can move to a vote. Okay, all in favor seeking unanimous consent. If you'd like to abstain or dissent, please use the raise hand feature in Zoom and I'll call on you to record your vote. Okay, that carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Okay, thank you. Now move on to new business item 10.2, Women's Center and on-campus furnishings, submitted by myself. So I'll be the mover. I'll read the motion. Whereas both the Women's Center and on-campus spaces have been open since fall 2021, whereas the spaces have previously been furnished with couches, desks, tables, and other items included in bulk for the sub. Whereas feedback from students and staff is that the space needs some furnishing improvements to make the space more comfortable and community-centered. Whereas both coordinators have consulted with students to create a furnishing proposal, whereas the Space Oversight Committee has reviewed the proposals, whereas the committee has passed a recommendation to council to approve the proposals. The result that council approved spending up to $26,000 for the out-on-campus furnishings from the Space Expansion Fund as laid out in the proposal. Before the result that council approved spending up to $31,000 for Women's Center furnishings from the Space Expansion Fund as laid out in the proposal. Do I have a seconder?
Political science.
Thank you, political science. Discussion. As the mover of the motion, I will be happy to just reintroduce this. This is related to the earlier presentation from Jude and Simi. That's related to adding upgraded furnishings and new furnishings for both spaces. I am very much in favor of this project, and is that it's an item that'll be lasting, improvement that'll be lasting for many, many, many years, and will improve students' experiences in those spaces. Adding more options like a projector and a screen for like movie nights and other events. Having more community-centered paintings and murals and other items, and just a bit more comfy furniture. So if anyone else would like to list, please do so. Abby, I think, just double checking. Yes, Abby,
Yes.
go ahead.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to speak in favor of this motion. I saw this a little bit earlier at SPOC, and I think all the furnishings they're getting are very suitable to the space. They also look like a good balance of something that's going to last long and is comfy. And just in general, I think the Women's Center is one of the most important spaces on campus, just because it's a very good, the Women's Center that's open to all genders is a really good place for like both women and non-women to educate themselves on the issues faced by anyone who's a self-identifying female. And then there's also the safe space as well. I just think it's a really, really good, it helped, this minor amount of money is going to help a lot of people. Yeah, so I'm in favor of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Abby. Any other comments, questions, or concerns by council? If you do, please list yourself. Nim, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm just echoing a lot of what Abby just said. The space is so widely used and it's such an important place for all SFU students, in addition to our self-identified women area plus out on campus. So I'm just really urging everyone to vote in favor of this because it'll help our SFU body for years and years to come. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Rasko, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me? I'm very much in favor of this motion, and I hope council will vote yes. Do you remember it is an investment into the student body, the members of the SFSS, and the Women's Center out of campus do great things for the students. So I hope they're able to get this passed. Thank you.
Thank you, Rasko. One last round of asking if anyone wants to comment on this proposal. If not, we'll move to a vote. Okay, seeing that discussion has been exhausted, I'll move to a vote. All in favor, seeking unanimous consent. If you'd like to abstain or dissent, please use the raise hand feature and Zoom, and I'll call you to record your vote. Okay, that passes unanimously. Thank you very much, everyone. That's our last new business item. Before we move in, what I recommend is we have Marie to make your amendment. Okay, go ahead, Marie.
Thank you. Yeah, I'd like to move to make an amendment to the agenda. I'd like to add a notice of motion titled Update MGP, the constituency group policy to reflect expected practice. I'm just putting it in the chat here, and I am putting the motion in the chat as well. Sorry, it looks horrible, but I'm gonna read it and I'll put the full PDF in there so it makes sense. But it just reads, whereas the member services and group policies need to be clear and outline the requirements established in the letter of agreement of the constituency groups that have letter of agreements. Whereas this would help council and staff understand the process under which constituency groups operate and outlines funding, space, staff support, and autonomous governance subject to reporting and base governance requirements as outlined in letters of agreements, as well as provide clarity and empowering the constituency groups that don't have letters of agreements. Be it resolved to rename the acronym of the member services and group policies MGP to MSGP, and reflect this throughout the policies and reflect these in all other policies. Be it further resolved to amend the APP member services and group policies as follows. And I'm sorry for the very not so nicely written notice of motion, but we could amend it further at a later date. But I will add the full thing to the chat. Here you go.
We'll email out the full document and motion to council to make it easier. So, because copy pasting into Zoom does not always work nicely. Okay, sorry, so that you're moving to amend the agenda to add this notice of motion. Do I have a seconder?
Political science.
Thank you, political science. Any discussion on this amendment to the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to a vote. All in favor seeking unanimous consent. If you'd like to abstain or dissent, please use the right hand feature in Zoom, and I'll call on you to record your vote. Okay, that passes unanimously, and now that nom has now been added to the agenda. Thank you. Now the next set of items is discussion items. Because this is actually going fairly smooth right now, I recommend we take like a 5-minute break, and I'll ask then Vice Chair Abby to take over chairing for the discussion items. Okay, so come back at, you know what, let's make it a nice, yeah, let's do 6:42. Okay. Can you pause the recording?
Okay, thanks everyone. We're going to move on to discussion items. We're starting off with 11.1. That's great. There we go. Okay. Check requisitions and electronic fund transfers. This was submitted by me on behalf of Nikki. This was to ask about the progress that has been made on exploring EFT/direct deposit options for student reimbursements. I believe, Corbett, you might have some more on this.
Yeah, sorry, I was just typing, responding to a question in chat. Okay. So when this was something I wanted to get done when I was VP internal for quite a long time. There are some challenges with our current system. I did check in with staff about, like, for instance, we tried to do an EFT, an electronic fund transfer, just like a direct deposit, to a group or a person related to a motion we passed through exec to support an initiative. The problem is our system with our bank or whatever doesn't allow like one-time payments. So for these kinds of things, it has to be for like a business. And it has to be more like a monthly bill payment type situation. And so just switching over to suddenly doing EFTs is not necessarily going to be work with, especially with our membership. Plus, also we have to every time we want to do an EFT, there's something we have to add into the system as like a payroll type, not payroll, but a vendor type thing. So there is some challenges with this. I do know that Scotiabank does have a more of like a non-direct, was it the e-transfer system for, like Interact e-transfer for businesses now. For a long time, they didn't offer that service, or we were allowed to have that service in a particular organization. But I believe we can start looking at that more. The other challenge with an EFT, like switching over to more direct stuff, is, again, it might be not fully compatible with the way our payroll system and our not just payroll, but our accounting system works, because it's designed more around the check process. And doing it in batches and having them printed off and signed and such. It's not necessarily, I don't think, a completely insurmountable issue. It's just, there's definitely some behind the scenes things that have to be sorted out. And finally, there's one other thing I wanted to mention. Oh, also, one of the things we found during the pandemic is CRA has a different set of rules for electronic documents. So like doing like electronic versions of, or digital versions of check recs and documentation stuff, like receipts and things like that. And there's different rules for storage and tracking and such that we hadn't fully transitioned over, because we were wondering if we're going to get in and out of the pandemic, and so we ultimately went back to more paper-based stuff. But again, that stuff can be changed over, but it'll take a bit more time and planning out. And I think that's something that the next council and maybe Abby will be able to more directly work on. Because it sounds like a simple thing. Oh, just because we can all just have our own personal accounts and then just go e-transfer and stuff. But it's from an organizational perspective, especially with the amount of checks we do every week, it's a little bit more complicated. But I'm very confident that with a bit of more focus on it, that we can get it done for the next council year. And then we can save students a lot more time and staff time, and not have to like print off checks, so many checks, sign them, mail them out and stuff. It'll just be a lot faster on the student side, especially.
Thank you, Corbett. Anyone else has something they wanted to say on the matter, feel free to list in the chat, or had any thoughts they wanted to add to the discussion. Doesn't seem to be any. Oh shoot, I can't minimize this, give me a second. Okay, we are going to move on to 11.2 then, continuation of council resignation discussion. This was submitted by Kashish. If you want to go ahead, Kashish. Kashish, are you here?
She had to step out, I think, for fast.
Right, okay. Do you want to maybe come back to this one then and just do 11.3 first? Oh, okay.
I merged with her report, which I did on Almas's behalf. 11.4 is postponed to next meeting because Ella couldn't make it today.
Okay.
No,
okay.
Wait, sorry, council. Oh, sorry, that was a presentation she was doing. Council transition exports is a different item. So yeah, 11.4 can still be discussed. My apologies. I got those switched around.
Okay. I think Marie said she can speak on this, so you can go ahead, Marie.
Yeah, this was specific to the council retention topic, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Yeah, so me and Kashish have been working together to basically provide a survey for counselors to just encompass a couple of their thoughts and experiences within council this year, so we can ensure that we implement more supports, or just are further aware of the experiences of counselors. So I'm actually going to send the survey on email, but I also did want to encompass some of the questions that we are asking. So first is just like, were you given guidelines or transitioned into your role by your predecessor So the previous counselor in your role, how so? Second one is, do you think you were given sufficient information about your role or responsibilities as a counselor? Please explain. Are you aware how to use staff services or other services SFSS has? Do you have difficulties reaching your 20 hours per month as a counselor? Please explain. Have you ever contemplating resigning from your role? If yes, what was the reason? We also noted for this specific question, if folks are not comfortable, they don't have to share. The next question is, if you'd like to share, has your mental health been a barrier in your role? If yes, how has it acted as a barrier? And this is also another question that folks don't have to share. Next one is, do you find having a paid LOA up to 20 hours helpful? Any comments? Next one is, do you feel comfortable providing your insight within council, whether that's ex-camera or in-camera? If not, what are beneficial means to advance your engagement? Next question is, how can the SFSS retain counselors? In brackets, it's giving some advice like advanced training, earlier meetings, shorter meetings, counselor transitioning into your student union, more morale, more facilitated conversations when conflicts arise, etc. And then lastly, it's what has helped you reach your potential as a counselor in terms of your ability to engage in council and engage in projects this year. So those are kind of the questions that we encompassed. The last time we had a conversation, we felt as if it may be more informative, sending a survey out to all the counselors and then having them give them the ability to really encompass how they're feeling. So we're basically going to have this survey be opened until Sunday by 11:59. I don't know why September got into my head, but yeah. Maybe Kashish could just add on to this, and I could just finalize some remarks, and then I'll send it through email and just let me know if you received it. Also, just wanted to add too, this is specifically for counselors, current counselors, so please don't share it or put it online or any of that. It's specifically for you folks.
Thank you, Maria. I listed myself, so I have a quick question for you. Are these survey responses, is it anonymous or is it tied to something where you guys can check who's saying what?
It's a good question. So this is a web survey, so I believe it will look into verifying if you're a student or not, just because we wanted it to be secure. But no, we didn't ask if there was to look into who the person was or what they're encompassing. Yeah, me and Kashish won't look at who submitted what or logged in through what. It's specifically for just advice in general, and we really are encouraging folks to give us your honest thoughts. But yeah, for sure. I can also, if folks feel comfortable, what I can do is I can add that to that description as well to make sure that, as you submit, you do know that we're not going to be looking further into who said what. Does that make people more comfortable? Or Abby, does that kind of resolve your concern?
Yes, it does. I think Kashish said you have to pinky promise that you won't check who's saying what.
Okay, cool. Kashish, do you want to speak to this?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think it's really important if we want to continue the work that we do, that we are not losing counselors left and right like flies. It would be helpful to have the same, and I just want to say that a lot of it does have to do with mental health, but if there's anything else you think that would better support you in council or your coming counselor, that would help them say whatever you've noted, because we've only noted so much you've noted. I'd really like to hear what everybody else thinks.
Thank you, Kashish. Anyone wants to comment on this, on the survey question specifically, or something they wanted to add to the discussion, please use lists in the chat. I promise I won't bite if you do. This is a particular area that I think it's really, really important. We hear counselor feedback, especially those of you who have actually stuck around for a long time. Yeah, pinky promise. Just because, like, I know in the beginning of January, we had a ton of turnover. I think it was 6 counselors resigned or something like that. If you have anything to say, of course, if you're not comfortable saying it, then there's a survey, which is anonymous, and I highly, highly encourage everyone to fill that out. But if you have anything to say right now, I highly, highly encourage you to write list in the chat. Nikki, go ahead. Oh, no, sorry, I missed Chloe. Chloe, go ahead.
I was just, sorry if this was already said, but I was just wondering if this is going to previous counselors as well, or just current counselors.
I can answer that. It's for current counselors.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you, Chloe. Next on the list is Nikki.
Yeah, so I guess I just want to say, like, we're all going to do the survey, but I think this is really important. I really appreciate this going out to like hear about, you know, how our experience has been. There's definitely significant like mental health factors as like one example, right, of the experience in council, and it's really good to get more information. So I really appreciate this.
Thank you, Nikki. Anyone else have anything at all they want to say? Again, really, really want to encourage counselors, especially those who have been around for a little bit, to say their piece. Thank you, Marie. Go ahead.
I was just going to reiterate what Kashish said in the chat, but Kashish actually put forward a Google survey surveying like counselors who actually resigned, but not everyone responded. But yeah, just so folks know that that was also done.
Thank you, Marie. I'll give you guys like 10 seconds again if you want to list. I know it's like we're close to the end of the semester and like everyone's tired, but again, this is an important topic. So if you have anything to say, please do say so. Deanna, you have a list. Did you want me to read it out loud whenever you're done? Okay, Deanna is asking, is there any way the deadline for the survey could be extended past Sunday? And I think that's probably a sentiment shared amongst a lot of people, just because we have final projects and stuff, and it's the last week of classes right before finals. I don't know, Marie or Kashish, if you can comment on that. Marie, go ahead.
Yeah, sure. Is there a specific time that would be best? Like, I'm thinking like until next Wednesday or?
Thank you, Marie. And of course, there is the little complication that the board is turning over at the end of April, so we can't keep it open forever or even till the end of the month, because then we need someone to like actually take the data and then like interpret it. But yeah, that's a good point. Deanna, thank you for that. And I'll read out loud Deanna's thing in the chat again. Yeah, anytime next week will be better for me personally, but up to everyone else. And I think that's probably a sentiment that's shared amongst a lot of council again with stuff wrapping up. Thanks, Deanna. Nikki, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm not sure if this is, I guess it's like a point of information too. I'm not sure if this is the right time to do it, but I would like to add a discussion item as well.
Okay, yeah, once we wrap up the discussion, you can list and we'll go through that.
Thank you.
Okay, did anyone else have anything they wanted to add to the discussion before we move on? Going once, going twice. All right, thank you, everyone. Nikki, I assume you want to list and amend the agenda? to add a discussion item?
Yes, please. Yeah, thank you very much. Are there any other discussion items after this one, by the way, just before checking the agenda?
Sorry, Corbett, I think that's it, right?
Actually, I think 11.4 is still on.
Okay, yeah, so it'd be,
I got that confused with the presentation, so.
I can do it.
Gotcha.
I can do it after. The mine can go after that one. So I'd like to amend the agenda to just request a discussion item on just the prospect of events going forward in the summer semester and possible collaborations with DSUs.
Okay, thank you, Nikki. So would you mind just putting that in the chat for everyone so they can see that as well?
Yeah, yeah. Items on summer SFSS events.
You're just going to mute yourself. Okay, thank you, Nikki. Can I get a seconder for that motion, please?
Math.
Oh, sorry. Thank you, Math. Also, point of clarification for Marie.
Hello? Yeah, I just have a clarification. Sorry, is this to do with like specifically for the summer with like the new council board, or is this to do with like event like guidelines or mandates or anything that's in place right now?
Just like understanding the feasibility and what SFSS generally can do.
Oh.
Like it's a general, it's not based like specifically on, you know,
Yeah.
for example, what vibe of, but just like generally. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, sorry. So Nikki has moved to amend the agenda, seconded by Ben. Was there any discussion on that? Nope. Okay. All in favor seeking unanimous consent? If you dissent, please use the raise hand feature on Zoom and I will call on you for your vote. Okay, that passes unanimously. That will be the new 11.5 discussion item. So we're going to move on. 11.3 is postponed, but 11.4 is budget development updates submitted by Almas. If you want to take it away, Almas.
No, but sorry, just for clarification. Sorry, Jeff, point of information.
Sorry, yeah.
So no, 11.3 budget development update was merged into her Almas's reports, exec officer report, and I presented it on her behalf when she was dropped out. So we just need to go to 11.4 council transition exit reports.
Oh, my thing is, oh, okay. Sorry, okay, it's in the opposite order on the thing. Okay, all right, then yes, sorry. Okay. Yeah, so sorry, this is 11.3. We are doing 11.3.
The new 11.3.
Yeah, council transition and exit reports submitted by Almas. Take it away, Almas.
It was submitted by me, actually.
Okay, that's Almas.
It's okay.
Take it away, perfect.
Okay. So I think this was partially kind of a discussion related to one, I think, email that Ella sent out as a sense of like all the counselors are now transitioning out of the role. Some will be continuing on as they've been reelected or they've been elected to a different council position. And so we've had those kind of other discussions around exit reports and stuff. But the idea is we want to have some kind of actual transition for a lot of the counselors, especially going out, to have some kind of record or recommendations or information to the next person, or even having like a sit down, some kind of equivalent of a virtual or physical sit down to transition information over. And so I think we want to have a little bit of a discussion on this. Currently, our policies do not require counselors, non-executive counselors, to write exit reports, but there is an important aspect of transition. So, so I think it wouldn't hurt for us to have a bit of a discussion on this, on things that maybe we can do that's not necessarily report-based, but some other kind, or if there's already any plans for any of the outgoing counselors to transition in their incoming, and you plan to share with the rest of council to give other people ideas. And we can also, I can give some ideas, other people have some ideas. That makes sense?
That does. Thank you, Corbett. Anyone who has any thoughts on this list in the chat? Listed myself, so I'll go. I can speak personally to what I'm doing for my replacement. So my replacement in the political science student union is Bryden, and I think he was here for a little bit of the council meetings. I recommend, obviously they're not getting paid, but maybe invite a counselor or your next counselor out to just check out the meeting for a little bit to kind of see how it goes, and then if they have any questions, ask you about it. I'm also personally probably going to grab coffee with Bryden and just kind of go through the basics. And you don't have to, like, obviously they're going to be onboarded as well, so don't take it as like a massive pressure on yourself, like, oh, if I miss one detail, they're going to come after me or something like that, right? But if you can just giving a little primer to your counselor is just a really nice thing to have. So thank you. And then next on the list, I have Kylie and then Nikki.
Thank you. Yeah, so what we've started doing in the French Student Union is we have a executive email, just a Gmail, and we've started making like starter docs and stuff in there for all the different positions. So I've compiled just like a bunch of like basic info. Like you guys said, they're going to be onboarded, so they'll know the stuff, but also if nothing else, it's a good reference point for if they forget everything and don't want to go back. And then there's lots of space open for my replacement, Ethan. If he wants to add anything after his term, if he thinks I missed anything, he can drop it in there. Also, I'm in a unique position because like I'm friends with Ethan. I was the one when I just realized I had to go for exchange, so I can't run again. I told him he should run. He did run and he got the position. Good for him. So I've already sat down with him like a couple times and gone over stuff. And I also second the trying to get them to come to meetings, even though they aren't getting paid, because I know Ethan, my replacement, said that he found that really helpful, just see the stuff in motion, so then you could ask me questions. And yeah.
Thank you very much, Kylie, for sharing. I'll say the PSSU as well. We've started doing transition guides for our next execs, and I think it's a good practice to have, just to have a little basic. You don't need like a 13-page manual or anything, but even just half a page of some duties or whatever you want to do is always helpful. I have Nikki, then I have Marie.
Yeah, I just want to touch on what I've been doing to help transition upcoming counselors. So as you may have known, I was the cognitive science counselor before I was the philosophy counselor. So I've been helping both the upcoming cognitive science and philosophy counselors to be onboarded. And although the SFSS will be doing official onboarding for the upcoming counselors when they start in their term, I've been going over things like what to expect, you know, how council meetings work, and I've been encouraging them to be alternates during this period, just to get a bit of a primer on how council works. So yeah, thank you. And also I do have a suggestion that maybe in the future, like I know this has been something that Corbett has allowed, so thank you very much. But if upcoming counselors, if they wish to do so with their time, to be open to coming to development sessions before their term starts. I think that I've done that. I've encouraged Ashley, the upcoming philosophy counselor, to come to a development session, the last one on the budget, and that has been something that she has found very helpful. So that's something that I suggest going forward. They don't have to, but if they want to, these development sessions are open to them.
Thank you very much for your thoughts, Nikki. Next, I have Corbett.
Thank you. Is this a grudge? Because you also said didn't give me a second. Okay. Thank you everyone for your comments. Yeah, what couple of questions am I going to ask also for the people that have been elected? Do they also know that they need to be available for the first week of May for orientation? I'm hoping that's stuff's going out. I can check with staff to double check it, but just want to make sure that they also know that, you know, whether it's in person or virtually, that there's like a week of important orientation stuff, just like we did last year. Sorry, it's just on the chat. So that's just one thing to remind. Make sure you tell your incoming counselor to be available for that time, for that day, those days and time. Other recommendations I definitely have is, as both, people, I've been in lots of different roles. What I find is people need like a primer, like a kind of a Cliff Notes version to help them prep ahead of time. So like even like it's great for them to come to the meeting, but if they don't have any clue what Robert's Rules is, this is all really foreign for them. It feels like overly stiff and really weird structure. And what's the feature list? What's all these different things? What's emotion? Obviously, it's not fair for all of you to create your own primers, but I think in the future we should definitely have like a nice little primer that everyone can hand out when they get elected, or when they get elected. But in the meantime, yeah, have sit downs, have kind of what you wish you'd do kind of discussions with everyone, so you can. So, thank you.
Thank you, Corbett. All right, does anyone else have anything they wanted to contribute? We've had some great contributions from execs and Nikki and Kylie as well. Anything at all, anything anyone's done that's different than anything that's been said before, or anything you just want to add on to as a good practice that you've done, or any ideas you have? Anything like that at all? Give you guys like another 10 seconds. Five, four. Point of information, Nikki?
It's in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
No, it's again, our policies don't require that. So no one needs to do an extra report.
But do you want it? Do you encourage it?
If you want to do something like a handoff, you're totally welcome to. It's just, I also understand maybe not everyone has the best way of explaining things through writing. Like someone maybe it's verbal, maybe it's sending some videos or things like that. So I think, the next council year should have more discussion on council transition and carryover and all these things, and encourage, whatever format it comes to, whether it's surveys, it's making packages for everyone to get ahead of time, or even before they run for election, things like that. I strongly encourage you to work on that stuff. I just, with all the other things we've been doing this year, I didn't want to recommend adding another layer of paperwork and everything else for people.
Okay. Just to clarify for anyone who didn't see it in the chat, Nikki was asking if counselors had to complete exit reports, and I think Corbett was saying they're voluntary.
Yes.
Yeah. And then Riley in the chat is asking, just to clarify, we don't need to answer the stuff Ella sent, especially if we got voted back in.
I don't remember all the stuff that she sent off the top of my head, but I think there was some stuff in there that was, even if you got voted back in, it doesn't necessarily hurt to actually even write down some thoughts and some things you learned this year just for yourself, because it could be useful for the next person that comes in maybe a year from now. You can just also look back to it.
Thank you, Corbett. Anyone else have any questions? You can go in the chat. I'm happy to read out loud for anyone, or if you just want to keep it in the chat and have it answered. Now's a great time. We're like running really good on time, so if you have something to say, this is a good council meeting to say it when it's not like 11:30 at night.
No, point of order from Nikki. No, I did not. And in fact, we have videos and stuff for that. I was just saying, I fully understand people coming in and not understanding what's going on. It's definitely helpful to have them attend meetings, but they also probably need some kind of primer, which we as a society should be developing and providing.
And again, just for clarity, for those that didn't see it in the chat, Nikki was just asking if we are required to teach our next people, I cannot think of the word for whatever reason, Robert's rules. Incoming, thank you. And no, you are not required to teach your next predecessor Robert's rules. I don't know them well enough to be confident to teach it, let alone someone who's maybe only been on council for a couple months. But yeah, maybe we can just all like pay Ben to come to our DSUs and teach people. But yeah. I don't see any of the lists or any questions at the moment. If there's nothing else, then I think we can just move on to announcements and notice of motions. Perfect. Unless there's a list and I just can't see it because I'm trying to look at the agenda right now. Do someone shout at me. Okay, announcements. LOAs, the communications counselor has an LOA from March 30th.
I think, sorry, I think like you missed my discussion item.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, Nikki, your discussion item.
Okay.
Sorry, just pulling it up. And I can't find it. This is great. There it is. Items on summer SFSS discussion item on summer SFSS events and so student engagement initiatives and collaborations with DSUs submitted by Nikki. Nikki, if you want to take it away, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much. So I know that this is more of a project for the incoming VP events, but I just wanted to mention that I have an intention to help with events and student life going forward in the summer and in future semesters. And I've been talking with various DSUs, and we would love to in the summer collaborate with the SFSS in events and possibly, you know, have like cross promotion and do something of that nature. And we have some ideas, for example, some like academic symposiums that could be held in the sub building, for example, and that could be something that is a collaborative event between the SFSS and certain DSUs. And I just wanted to ask about, you know, the feasibility of doing something like that. I know that this is something that will be worked on by the upcoming VP events, but like what would be the process of having a collaborative event between the SFSS and DSUs? And yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. Did anyone have any comments they wanted to add on to that? Give you guys like a 10 count. Corbett, go ahead.
Yeah, from like an SOS side, definitely we still have staff that, well, I think, sorry, we're definitely from a, so at least from a subs perspective, we are moving towards opening up more spaces to be able to use. I know they're looking at trying to get the community kitchen up and running, at least for internal bookings through like specific groups, because there is a safety aspect tied to that space. I'm training, like you need some additional training in case someone hurts themselves. But so there's definitely, by summer, there should be definitely more options for students to have more events in the sub. Overall, from the SFS side of things, yeah, like staff are still here to be able to support events. There's the events committee can get up and running within, by the time, everything gets changed over on stuff, it takes up to like sometimes up to 6 weeks before we get up and running. But there definitely is that events can and do happen over the summer. If you want to do more collaboration with DSUs and stuff, I think the first thing to do is check in which DSUs are active during the summertime. Some are not, so actually, because sometimes there's just no programming. I think in the past, from past years, my memory is like software systems for at least 1 year didn't have any summer courses available. So they basically, there wasn't much they can do. But there is definitely other groups that are active, so that will help. Yeah, there's definitely options. There is definitely less students on campus and going to classes in the summer, but there's still events happening. There's still stuff happening, and you can also coordinate with residents and stuff as well to try to have joint events and such.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Corbett. Nikki, you had a list?
Yeah, thank you so much, Corbett. Yeah, I'm really like looking forward to the possibility of this, and I really want to look into some sort of formal collaboration between, the SFSS, with the events committee and DSUs. So I know that I've been working on leadership transition in the DSUs I'm already involved in right now currently. And I know for a fact that the Philosophy Student Union and Cognitive Science Student Society are going to be very active in the summer. And we've talked about doing some sort of three-way collaboration with the SFSS for an academic symposium as one example of an event, and that would be something that I think could be done, and we could help with the planning of that. And should I talk to Vaibhav about this? No.
Yeah, I would.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. And like, is this like a formal collaboration between the SFSS and DSUs? Is that like something that's like possible?
Marie, go ahead.
Yeah, so typically if you want it to be an official, okay, yeah. So typically if you want it to be an official thing, whatever is prepped would have to come to council, and then you would just get council to endorse if that's like something you would want. Also, you could just spark, or you could take this to council like in the summer when the newly folks are in place to help like collaborate. You could just like bring a motion forward and then initiate a collaboration between folks and go forward. But it seems like, yeah, this would definitely need the VP events person if they would want to take it to the events committee. It does sound like a huge initiative though, so I don't know if that could be like perfectly encompassed there, just whatever like you folks think is best. But yeah, in terms of an official thing, it would have to like go through an endorsement, I believe. Is that correct, Corbett?
Sorry,
Generally, yeah.
that. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, generally, yeah. Like the thing too is any committee that has a budget, a lot of times you can have events tied to that committee's purpose. So there's lots of ways to join stuff like joint advocacy committees, joint campaigns, joint that could be event based. But yeah, there's events committee. There's also council as a whole. There's lots of different ways to do that. And there's definitely a lot of history of SOS doing collaborations with different clubs and student unions for specific events.
Thanks, Corbett. I listed myself next. I'll just say, as someone who's on the events committee for 2 years, it's a good idea to just run it by the events committee. I'm not sure if it'll be formed in time, actually. If you guys are looking to hope it in summer, do your event in early summer, it might not be formed in time. But if it is, the events committee, I felt always did give good feedback to the groups that came before it. And it's just a good way to get feedback. And then potentially, if the budget's small enough, sometimes the events committee could just approve it themselves. I think I have Nikki on the list.
Yeah, thank you so much. So one of my ideas could be that if the events committee is not going to be formed early enough for an event in the summer, one thing that could happen is that the DSUs can do the majority of the planning for the event, and then the SFSS can possibly support in another capacity, such as providing the space, funding, of course, like they already do that with grant funding anyway, and then also with advertisement. So that could be like a way of like collaborating as well.
Yeah, thank you, Nikki. Okay, was there anyone else? Excuse me. Was there anything anyone else wanted to say regarding this discussion item? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you, everyone. We're going to move on to announcements. Okay. So first, LOA, communications student communications counselor Ashwin will have a LOA from March 30th to April 19th. Next, we have 3 new counselors. First of all, Aaron Fung will be taking over the Cognitive Science Council Rep role starting May 1st. So congratulations, Aaron. Bryden Dennis will be taking over the new Political Science Student Union role starting May 1st as well. Congratulations, Bryden. I know you were here earlier today. Hope you're still here. And we had one other one. It was Ashley Flatt, I believe. Ashley Flatt taking over for philosophy starting May 1st. So congratulations, Ashley. And I believe that is it. Wow, not even 7:30. Holy cow.
I know.
All right, and I can't minimize. There we go. I guess then I am gonna call for the meeting to adjourn. So be it resolved to adjourn the meeting at 7:25 p.m. I will move that. Can I get a seconder, please?
Math.
Math will second. Any discussion on this? People need to hit their hours. They want to like hang out for an hour or something. This is the time to stay so.
Just quickly, did we go over the notice of motions?
I did not. Thank you.
Thank you.
So never mind, I take it back. Well, shoot, I don't have any of those here. So I guess I'll retract my motion. Notice of motions. Sorry, Corbett, I don't have these in front of me on the agenda.
I'll put it. I could put it in the chat again.
That would be great. Thank you.
Also, I realized I made some spelling mistakes in the notice of motion, but it's just simple ones. Do I have to amend it now?
I think
that'd be good.
We have time.
I guess so.
Oh, can we actually? It would be dope if we could.
Yeah, I guess so. Like we got an hour.
Okay, I'm gonna just share my screen really quick, if that's cool. You could give me co-hosting.
Sure. Corbett, you don't have to do that. I'm only co-host.
It'll be quick, y'all. I'm sorry. Corbett, can you give me co-hosting abilities?
Yep, 1 second.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm just doing this for visual representation because I cannot stand when people say strike and I like can't see it. Anyways, but I'm just gonna move to amend the notice of motion first. So I'm going to move to strike CGS with constituency groups in the second whereas clause, and then in the third in the first be it resolved clause, I'm just going to strike reflect these and replace this line with change over here. And then in the last so the second be it further resolved, or the first be it further resolved clause, I'm just striking AP and adding under administrative policies over here. So it should just read like this. But I'm gonna add these into the chat. So I guess we would have to do a vote on amending and then passing.
Yeah, so this would be notice of motion 15.1. So Marie, you're moving to make the appropriate spelling / grammar changes to the notice of motion. Can I get a seconder for that, please?
Second.
I think I got Corbett on that one. Yeah, any discussion on that? It seems fairly straightforward. And even if you had a problem with the thing itself, it's just a notice of motion right now. Yeah, not seeing anything. All right. I'm going to take the vote on this. All those in favor seeking unanimous consent, if you dissent, please use the raise hand feature, and I will call on your vote. If you're very anti good grammar, here's a motion you can dissent on. Appears everyone here wants to pass their papers. So motion passes. Thank you. So now we have that NOM 15.1 with the appropriate adjusted grammar. And just to read that out loud, sorry, it is the motion title updated MGP, the constituency group's policy to reflect expected practice. Did we have any other notice of motion? Sorry, I just don't have the thing. No? Okay. All right, so I can actually adjourn now. Perfect. All right, I'm going to move to adjourn the meeting at 7:29 p.m. Sorry, I'm just making sure I didn't miss anything a second time. Because we do have to post the censure motion on notice of motion. Okay, yeah. Okay. Yes, okay, 7:30 p.m. I'm calling to adjourn the meeting. I'm gonna move that. Can I have a seconder, please?
Math.
Math will second. All right, any discussion? Did I forget anything else? No, all right. All those in favor seeking unanimous consent, if you dissent, please use the raise hand feature and I will call on you to record your vote. All right, meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone. This is the shortest meeting we've had, certainly since Corbett and I have taken over. Good job, everyone.
Yeah, I think one of my noms got stalled somewhere.
Yeah, sorry, I think I'll double check on what happened to it, because I thought I submitted it, but we'll see.
Yeah.
You can stop recording.
Yes.